Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
So for January, I wanted to do another Clash of Eras, because we've had two of those. So let's make a hat trick of them. So let's experience classic of the 80s, but also with a smattering of the new. Matt, we're going to experience what it's like at childhood's end.
Really?
Yes, really.
Wow.
So, 13th Doctor.
Yeah.
And a special guest star. And the book is written by Sophie Aldred, which may give you a hint as to who the special guest star is.
Oh, this is fantastic.
Yes.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going, Matt?
Happy New Year, Chris. It's going great. It's proper cold here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Negative 11 Fahrenheit or negative 24 Celsius. I'm told at negative 40 the scales converge. I hope we don't head that way, but I hear it's a little more tropical the farther north you go.
Yes, it is. It is. It's I think it's like 13 degrees Celsius, so 55 degrees Fahrenheit here. Yeah, I was wearing shorts today. Which I think just speaks more to the British psyche.
I'm envious because, I think shorts weather is a good 3 months away for us here. But
yes.
Yeah, but weathering the storm, as it were. So
yes.
We've got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
Before we get to our book this month, which is At Childhood's End by Sophie Aldred, we want to just cover briefly, we've got some book news and some reactions to recent episodes. So, Chris, last time we spoke, we had seen about 2/3 of Flux, but we hadn't seen episodes 5 and 6 yet. Did you have any reactions or thoughts you wanted to share about the final few episodes?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff happening, but kind of just characterization I kind of felt wasn't necessarily there, and it was a bit disappointing, I think, really. There was things happening rather than story.
Yeah, it was very plot-driven.
Yeah.
There were a few character moments, but they weren't so much character arcs as they were individual moments.
Yeah.
I have to say I did love the ride over the 6 episodes. It felt epic and cinematic, and it may be one of my favorite highlights over the entire new series for me.
Okay.
In that it delivered on the promise of Key to Time or Trial of a Time Lord, which for me kind of fizzled out story arc-wise, but this had plenty of plot.
Yeah.
One thought I had was, what happens to all the Lupari ships now? Why not give every human on Earth their own individual spaceship?
Yeah, and also, how come the Lupari haven't rocked up before?
And they're all dead now. The Doctor seemed kind of cavalier about all the...
Well, yeah. I mean, and I did feel, I've forgotten his name now, but kind of like Space Puppy, as he was nicknamed in his household.
Oh, Cavanista, yeah.
Yes. I mean, because, he was a little bit sad, but not like, you are now the loss of your species sad. It was like, oh, okay, I'll go off and have space adventures with Big Finish. I was like, yeah, you might be, somewhat shocked and shattered by events.
Yeah, and I thought it was a bit premature to kill Tatooine off, but, maybe the Doctor will encounter her again in an earlier regeneration someday.
Yeah.
I also kind of liked the allusions made to the Doctor's regeneration ability being taken without her consent, and how that parallels what happened with Henrietta Lacks in the early 1950s and the cells that were harvested from her, without her consent.
Yeah.
One other thing that stuck out is the fate of Claire. Does this mean that she's stuck in an infinite loop? Because I don't recall seeing her getting through the other side of things at the opening in the Halloween apocalypse. She kind of recognizes the Doctor and then gets sent back.
But she recognised the Doctor from her psychic visions.
I thought it was because she had gone through
Yeah.
it before, because she's like, this is the part where I go home now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of unclear.
Yeah. Well, and also what happened to the young lass who we know stays in the village in Devon in the sixth? Because like she's now, because like everybody else in that village has been disappeared. Yeah, because there was no mention as to what happens to her.
Yeah, and for me, it never felt like Gemma Redgrave and Jodie Whittaker were on the same set together. I wanted them to have like a hug and possibly the Doctor acknowledge her as a regeneration inspiration, but
Yeah, that's true.
that never happened. They were kind of socially distanced, and in the way it was shot, it made me just kind of question if they were ever on set together. But
And I mean, and I guess I suppose like the unit dating controversy, which we touched upon last episode, kind of maybe got dealt with by the Grand Serpent or whatever his name is in his time wrangling.
yeah, the Grand Serpent seemed a little out of place to me, and I wonder if that's where some of the cutbacks in number of episodes where it may have suffered, because
Yeah.
at least for me, the actor was too similar visually to the actor who was playing Swarm, and that they were both well-spoken, lanky British gentlemen, to the point where I was wondering for a bit of the time if they were played by the same person.
Yeah, no, because I knew, because like Grand Serpent is a guy who I often mistake for Paddy Considine. So I was kind of like, it's not Paddy Considine. So it's not Paddy Considine and not Paul Bettany against each other. Excellent.
I did like how Division was kind of like a modern-day take on Faction Paradox, with slightly less chaos, and I liked the Division versus Unit, just kind of
Yes,
those titles.
that's good. But I wanted there to be more Division. I mean, I appreciate probably due to COVID reasons, that's why you had like, you know, an ood, a tree, and Ratatouille or whatever her name is, Tatooine. But yeah,
Different spin-off show.
yes.
I love the Brigadier cameo, but I wish they would have used some audio from Nick Courtney from the short trips we listened to, where he talks about his daughter Kate. I thought that would have been a nice little tie-in, you know, since that audio exists.
I imagine copyright minefield. I suspect. I don't know.
You know, I really want a Yaz, Jericho, and Dan spin-off from Big Finish, where, you know, they had 3 years of adventures, or 4 years. Dan added an extra year in the latest special.
Yes.
And I was kind of hoping that there would be a narrative gap between the end of Flux and Eve of the Daleks, but that's only been about a week.
Oh, well, Dan says it's a week since we saved the universe. So maybe they could have saved the universe some other time?
Oh, and
But the TARDIS is still a bit flux damaged. But yeah, Big Finish could squeeze in a few things in between, I think, maybe.
the other thing that was a little surprising is that we had 3 episodes clocking in at just over an hour. So I feel like there's a re-edit that a fan could make where we actually get 7 45-minute episodes of Flux, if you were to recut these and redistribute some of that extra time.
Yeah. Certainly, one member of the household would really like a recut of episode 4, The Weeping Angels, without all the space rubbish.
Oh,
Without all of the unnecessary subplots.
I see. Yeah.
Yes. Lauren loved the Angels, really couldn't care for Northern Ireland lass and her chum.
Well, in 10 years' time, when we get the Ultra Blu-ray holographic edition,
Yes.
maybe we'll get a cut like that, similar to what we got with Terror of the Vervoids, without the trial scenes.
Yes, and I think that's the only way I'm going to get her to rewatch any bits of Flux again.
It was pretty cool that Jodie Whittaker's now been in both a 6-parter and a 5-parter in Doctor Who. I'm counting World Enough in Time all the way through the Ghost Monument, because if you watch it, it's 5 interconnected episodes with no breaks.
It's true.
And she's in 3 of the 5.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
What did you think of that house in Flux? Was that meant to be...
Lungbarrow.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, like a visual representation of it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that time seemed more like death and time if you go back to the old Virgin continuity here.
Yeah.
Instead of the 7th Doctor serving as Time's champion, you have that role being played by Swarm and Azure here.
I guess, but I don't know. I just like time was just too convenient in the way that time just resolved everything, and it was always like time was aware that we were running out of time episode wise. So it was like, okay, we need to wrap this up now. Christmas special coming up.
Speaking of time and time loops, what did you think of Eva the Daleks?
Oh, that I enjoyed. I have to say, I really loved it. I thought that it was probably one of the best directed episodes of the Chibnall era. Aisling B, I love. I think I've not seen all of her work, but I very much enjoy it. And like, she's known far more as a stand-up comedian over here.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, like I think her comic timing was impeccable. Yeah, and also sort of great pathos. And there was a brilliant cameo as well from the actor who was playing her mum, who was in Father Ted. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. I did wonder whether we might be about to have kind of like a companion exit or something.
I thought the Daleks were proper scary in it. And
yes.
I like when time is used in clever ways, like in a self-contained episode. We don't get it that often in Doctor Who. Like, I was thinking of like Blink or The Girl Who Waited.
Yeah.
And then I really liked the line, "I am not Nick," from Nick Briggs.
Yes.
When it was a Dalek, that was a great little nod. And Dan really reminds me of Jamie McCrimmon with a lot of his kind of quips and just his humor.
Yes.
I thought it was kind of cool seeing the TARDIS console room deconstructing. I was hoping for a new TARDIS console room, and I'm sure we'll get a new one soon enough, but
yes, I think we will.
I am glad it's back to its old self.
Yes, yeah. And also, like, Dan really came to his own yesterday, so particularly with that scene in which he has that gentle chat with Yaz about Yaz's feelings. And because I thought, I couldn't imagine Graham having that conversation.
Yeah.
Or anybody else, really. That was lovely and bittersweet, I thought.
It's kind of weird thinking that Yaz probably is closer to Dan than she was with Ryan and Graham, given that they've been traveling together for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and they felt like people that knew each other really well.
Yeah, and hints of Thasmin possibly to come.
Yeah, well, I think my only concern with the Phasmin stuff is that we also all know that it's going to be ending in heartbreak later on this year.
That won't end well. No. It'll end up on a beach somewhere.
Yes.
But I think overall, it's just a fantastic trilogy of New Year's Day Dalek stories from Chris Chibnall. Like, all three of them have been great. And
yes.
I like the play on the title, so, fans have to know their resurrections, revelations, and revolutions, and remembrances, but now we also have to keep our Eve and evils separate. So that's fun. And then, of course, did you see the Next Time trailer?
I did. I thought you might be particularly excited.
I've been clamoring for their return for years. I just hope we get a really cool underwater shot of a city at some point.
Oh, I don't think we'd necessarily have that. I don't know.
I can always make a fan edit with dropping some shots in from Aquaman or something.
Yeah. But then again, we might want to have some CGI just to spruce up, because I imagine we'll still be having the no more than 4 actors on a set at any one time.
Crowd duplication.
Yes.
And only 2 more episodes of BBC-produced Doctor Who remain.
Yes.
It truly is the end of an era, 60 years.
It is.
Before Sony and Bad Wolf come in and start making the show.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. I'm glad Russell's at the helm, but I saw in a interview he gave maybe 10 years or so ago where he had mentioned the only reason he'd see himself coming back to Doctor Who is if he thought the show was in trouble or needed stabilization. And I'm thinking it was because, they couldn't find a showrunner or a home that could do the type of show they want to do, competing with like the budgets of like Disney Plus and that sort of thing. In-house, they have to go externally for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is budget, just because obviously the BBC's budget is under a lot of pressure. So I think it is just so that they can carry on making it. Because, I mean, I don't know whether it still is the case that that the show makes money for the BBC. I imagine it probably does, but it would definitely help the BBC, let's put it this way. If they could get some extra investment. And so that we can also have like the MCU-ification
of the Doctor Who. Well, it's got enough. Yes. Just looking at Big Finish, it's got enough to support that. So
it does. In Flux itself, we've got at least 2 potential spin-off shows, and we might have the Third Adventures of Ace.
Yeah.
Of which more later.
Speaking of spin-off news, we do have a bunch of book news to cover. This month sees the release of another in the Beyond the Doctor series. This is London 1965 by Paul Mars, featuring Ian and Barbara, and narrated by Jamie Glover. So that's finally coming out. And the next one in the Beyond the Doctor series is due out in March, also by Paul Mars, called Sleeper Agents, featuring Ben and Polly, narrated by Annika Wills. So hopefully we get a different Ben and Polly future than the one we encountered in that one Short Trips.
Oh.
That one time.
So sad.
And Paul Mars just seems to keep on coming, because in May, the Penumbra Affair, featuring Polly and Mrs. Wibsey from Paul Mars's Nest Cottage trilogy, is due out, narrated by Susan Jameson. And this news item is especially for you, Chris. Time Lash, the Target novelization by Glenn McCoy, is finally coming to audiobook in March of this year, and is read by none other than Colin Baker himself.
Marvellous. I remember he was quite scathing about that story in GWM not long after it was broadcast.
Well, maybe he'll appreciate the added bits in the Target version.
Yes. All the nuance.
We've also heard that a paperback version of Wintertime Paradox is now out, and includes the bonus story Canaries that wasn't in the hardcover edition, and features an introduction by Ingrid Oliver. So that's really cool. And then Dan Slott has been announced as writing 3 one-off Doctor Who specials in a kind of annual style. And the first of the 3, and he's made it very clear that he's doing different Dr. TARDIS combinations for each. But the first one will feature the 10th Doctor and Martha, with art by friend of the show, Christopher Jones.
Cool. There's another piece of book news as well that I don't think we've discussed. Observe Books anthology about Paradise Towers.
No, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's called Build High for Happiness, and I think that came out like a month or so ago. I haven't got round to purchasing and reading as yet, and that features amongst its many authors one Paul Mars. So,
wow!
So there's lots of Paul Mars material out there for you.
That's fantastic. Yes. I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah. Some stories set before the TV stories, some stories set after. So, yeah.
And there's a new Doctor Who short story anthology coming in the autumn of 2022 called Origin Stories. And this will be delving into what some of the companions' lives were like prior to meeting the Doctor.
Okay.
So that might be interesting. And some sad news to report. Chris Achilleos, famous illustrator and artist whose work has graced dozens of Target novelizations and really set that style. In addition to, I didn't realize he had drawn the cover of Heavy Metal, that famous painting of the Valkyrie on the dragon, sadly passed away last month.
Yes, very sad news. Because he is one of the iconic Target. In fact, I think fans of a slightly older generation than I would say he is the iconic Doctor Who cover artist.
Yeah, I would say him and Andrew Skilleter, I think, are the two that come to mind for me. But yeah, he's definitely going to be missed.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to Show and Tell.
Yes. So what have you got for Show and Tell, Matt?
Well, the book we're reading this month features a collaboration between Sophie Aldred and Mike Tucker, but it isn't their first collaboration.
Ah!
So what I've got in front of me here is the hardcover book Ace, the inside story of the end of an era. And it's an oversized nonfiction book covering the making of the last 2 seasons of the classic show. It includes Sophie Aldred's photo shoot that she did for the New Adventures version of Ace, where she's giving her best Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor impression of, the Ace that fought in the Dalek Wars. And this book came out in 1996, around the time of the TV movie, and it goes through each story featuring Ace. It's got lots of photographs and concept art, and goes into comics and conventions, and it's just really a nice little snapshot of both her memories on the show, but then you also get Mike Tucker's memories of working on the production side of things. So you get a book of 2 tales and how they intertwine, and it's just a fun read. And it also includes information about the planned season 27 that Big Finish eventually brought to life.
Yeah.
One of many possible exits for Ace is covered in this. So highly recommended. It's a bit of a collector's item now. Hasn't been in print for several decades now.
Yes.
If you ever see one in a used bookstore, I'd recommend it. It's a fun item.
Fantastic. So my choice for this month is something that is in print. It is the Doctor Who Atlas. Journey Through the Worlds of the Doctor, which I got for Christmas, with a foreword by Rachel Talalay. As well as being an atlas, it's got illustrations of all the various Doctors and companions. No Chameleon or Sarah Kingdom. All Romana 1, I'm sad to report. But no, it's fun. There's some surprising kind of like, we've got a 2-page spread on Marinus. I'm like, oh, okay. But quite a bit of it, I imagine that my 9-year-old self would have loved, even some of the older stuff, because there's a spread on War World showing where the various zones are and showing soldiers from the different zones. There's also a 2-page spread on Orphan 55. I don't know if I need to be reminded of Orphan 55.
The illustration style in it reminds me a little bit of almost like the Where's Waldo series of books, because there's all sorts of little details and stuff. And
yeah, though a bit more mature than, sorry, mature maybe not the right word. It's child friendly. Yeah, you don't see Erato appearing anywhere. Yeah, it's good. It's a fine read and goes to some interesting and surprising places.
That's funny that we both picked nonfiction books for our show and tell. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the book we're reading this month is At Childhood's End by Sophie Aldred, with Mike Tucker and Steve Cole contributing. Not sure exactly what the breakdown or ratio is of their work on it, but I know that Sophie Aldred contributed to the story idea and the outline and probably wrote several sections of it, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of meeting Sophie several times at Gallifrey 1, Chicago TARDIS, Convergence, and Console Room. For me, joining Doctor Who fandom in the wilderness years and getting into the McCoy era early on, Ace quickly became my, kind of the current or default companion that I imprinted on.
Yeah.
And following her adventures in the books and then the BBV audios and then her work in Big Finish. Yeah, just she's a character that's very close to my fanish heart, I would say.
Yes, yeah, I'd say so. I've only seen her once. It was when she was doing live commentary on Remembrance of the Daleks. But that was a really awesome thing to see, because she's very proud of the fact that she's the companion who got to beat up a Dalek with a baseball bat.
Of which we may see more of that bat.
Yes, we may
later.
see more of that later. Yes. I think she insisted on that, because I think it's what she regards as her iconic scene.
In the Sarah Jane Adventures special that was produced in lockdown, I didn't choke up watching that until I heard Sophie's voice come in. And it was just, I really hope that in some fashion we get more Ace adventures in the future, once RTD comes in. But
yes,
I don't want to set my expectations too high for that, because, it might not happen at all. And who knows if Sophie's even doing, I know she does quite a bit of voice work these days, but I don't know if she's doing any in-person acting. But the book itself has 32 chapters, a prelude, and a coda, and it's divided into 3 parts. Most of the book takes place in 2020, pre-pandemic.
Yeah, January 2020. They are quite precise. And it's like, well, just as well, hey.
It's perfect, because this is our January episode, so it's super on point in terms of timing. And the book is available in hardcover, paperback, and audio. The audiobook, of course, is written by Sophie Aldred, and it has some added music and effects like cars and force fields and time storms, all sorts of stuff. The production of it was really well done.
I think also it's hard to talk about this book without spoiling it, and this is a very dense book. So whilst we're kind of like going through talking about it, and if you're kind of thinking, oh, I might like to read it, I'd encourage you, go ahead and read it. Or experience it in your medium of choice. Yeah, because it's going to be, we cannot talk about this without spoiling it.
Yeah. So shall we get started?
Yes, let's get started.
All right. So the book opens in 2020, where Dorothy McShane, aka Ace, wakes up from a recurring dream about a desert landscape where people are heading to a distant palace on the horizon, and they're being attacked by giant creatures in the sky. And the dream ends with a huge talon pulling her towards a kind of a horrific face. And then Dorothy also wakes up to her cat Soren, named after the captain in the Curse of Fenric episode. And Dorothy is living in an 18-story building that she constructed called a Charitable Earth. She has apartments in it, and it's overlooking the Tower of London, and she specifically built it there so she can monitor what UNIT is up to. But unfortunately, UNIT's been very quiet recently due to budget cuts.
And the Grand Serpent.
Yes. As revealed to be the reason for the budget cuts.
Yes.
There's a few points where this I think unintentionally aligns with how the story's progressed since Flux. It's kind of cool. Dorothy sees a news report about a girl in Perryvale who had a similar dream that she did amidst news of disappearances in the area. And Dorothy wonders if it's early signs of another time storm like the one that Fenric had conjured up.
Yeah, so there's a common element to these disappearances, which is like this sharp cracking noise. Yeah, so Dorothy drives out to Perivale to investigate and decides to check in with her friend Chantal, as a former model who lives on one of the estates. And Chantal, she's 37 and Dorothy's 50, and Dorothy's been like a big sister figure. And she's in survival as Squeak. Yeah.
Oh, that's right, Midge's little sister. I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. Huh.
And in real life, the actor that played Squeak went on to be a model and I think was on in EastEnders and a few soap operas.
Wow.
So Chantal tells her that she heard some weird noises a couple of nights back, like firecrackers. And there's been some unusually large rats, and there's also been a bloke wandering around. And Dorothy thinks this might possibly be the Doctor. Dorothy's business manager, a guy called Sanel, rings her and tells her to watch the news. Because an object has appeared in the moon's orbit, and it looks like an elongated cone with bits of coral at either end. And like some international governments are preparing missions to closely examine it, and others are preparing to destroy it. So Dorothy decides to tell Sanel to clear her diary for the rest of the week.
Yeah, with Ace being 50 in this novel, it's about 8 years younger than Sophie was at the time of publication.
Yeah.
And with UNIT's headquarters being the Tower of London, I think it's interesting that Ace doesn't realize that UNIT changes its base location every few years. So maybe not invest in a multi-million-dollar thing, but...
Well, I imagine she might also be able to kind of like sell on some of the apartments, and it might be a bit of a kind of like a money...
Yeah, that's true.
Because like that is not a cheap bit of real estate.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's interesting too that while UNIT is no more in 2020, Ace still feels threatened by Torchwood possibly discovering her activities. So there's an indication that they're still around. And we get a reference to Brigadier Bambera, who's been missing for several years following a sea devil attack off the south coast of Wales. And we also get a reference to the department store Henrik's that Rose worked at. There's a lot of tie-ins to the Doctor Who universe, and I wonder how many of those come from Sophie versus Mike Tucker or Steve Cole. Although, having spoken with Sophie, she is very well-versed in all Doctor Who lore. So
I think quite a bit will have come from her, I suspect.
The opening chapters also felt very Harry Sullivan's War to me. Well, lots of gadgets and... plot, I don't want to say coincidences, kind of driving the narrative along, kind of James Bond feel almost.
And there's some more gadgets to come, aren't there?
Oh, yes. So Dorothy drives out west of London and calls Will Buckland, who's an ex of hers, who also happens to be a former astronaut.
Handy.
And current director of the British Space Defence Centre in Devonshire. Am I pronouncing it right?
It's entirely fictional, so yes.
Okay. Have we seen Devonshire before?
It's in the Android Invasion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's where people with eye patches don't check that they have an actual eye underneath them.
Or the calendar dates. Yes. And the pub wall.
It's a special place.
So Ace guesses that agency is going to be sending a probe up to examine the object, and if so, she wants to be on that probe. And she tells Will that it has to be the two of them on their own. And he agrees, saying that it's an extreme way to get a second date with her. And then Ace goes to a farm where she keeps a series of shipping containers. And her charity specializes in providing these highly customizable containers to act as temporary buildings in disaster areas.
Which is something that happens in real life.
Mm-hmm.
You can get, so there are organisations that provide this. And it's such a cool idea, and it's such a wonderful thing to be promoting to Doctor Who readers. So it's very much in the educational spirit that Sidney Newman would have recognised.
Yeah, and Dorothy is kind of using some of these interconnected as like a secret workshop. And she's still brewing Nitro 9 there, now called Nitro 90. And she's also made things like anti-plastic, which the Doctor himself cooks up in the episode Rose to help with the environment. And also in the workshop, she keeps various bits of alien tech, including a power cell from a crashed UFO.
Yeah, and this power cell, it's kind of like, it's almost like a creature, and it's kind of got tendrils, and it can interface with any technology. And she's called it Squidget, for reasons. And Squidget is voice command and very usefully understands English. So she tells it to kind of like get into some carry case that she's got along with a propulsion unit. And then she heads off to Devonshire, or however you pronounce it. And she has a tour of locations from the android invasion. Winding up at the space agency, where she meets up with Will, who is very excited by Dorothy's kit, the fact it could get them to the moon faster. And she also meets Will's new technician girlfriend, Sam, which isn't at all awkward. And so they head off to the rocket ship Virgil, and on board, Dorothy gets Squidget to wire itself in, and Squidget kind of like grows in size, feeding off the power and with its tentacles everywhere. Will and Sam do various diagnostic checks on the ship and put Dorothy through a series of slightly humiliating medical reviews, and we go for launch.
And could something lift off from the UK? I mean, just to get into orbit, there's a reason NASA launches from Florida, of all places, and it has to do with having enough velocity to escape. Well, I suppose the Squidget is kind of a...
booster, yeah.
Can do anything, so...
Yeah, well, I mean, and also, I mean... Devonshire is somewhere in the West Country where you'd have like a less congested airspace. You know, if you're launching rockets from the Tower of London, you need to clear it with Heathrow, Gatwick, and a fair few other airports. Scotland would be a more likely place, I'd have thought.
This seems like a third in a trilogy for us of space shuttle or space probe heists. I think we had one with Ian and Barbara in Face of the Enemy, and then
yes.
The Eighth Doctor going into space in Father Time, and
yes,
and now this.
Yes, and that Father Time one was a January one as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yes,
so.
yes, and very brutal.
So then, back in Perryville, Chantal, aka
Squeak,
yep,
yes,
she sees the mysterious man that she told Dorothy about. This time, rummaging through the tower block's recycling bins, and she recognizes him as Kim Fortune, who's an online paranormal investigator. And he starts to shush her, explaining that he's been looking into the recent Perryville abductions, and points out two hooded figures that he's observing down a nearby alleyway. And Chantal, kind of incredulous, shouts at the figures who run, but not before she realizes they aren't human. And then she and Kim pursue them into kind of a blocked ginnel area, but then they disappear mysteriously. And Chantal decides that she really needs to go get drunk instead of doing whatever this is. And so she leaves and watches a lot of rats nearby as she goes off.
I quite like Chantal.
Yeah.
She's fun.
And we're almost a fourth of the way through the book, and it very much feels like a Dr. Light story at this point, because we're just focusing on Ace here. Yes.
Yeah, which I do wonder how that would go down to someone who's reading this as a 13th Doctor book. Because we're like, who are all these people? Yeah. So at the space agency, so the rocket launches off, and as they leave Earth's atmosphere, like Dorothy and Will plug in Squidget, which gets them to the moon in seconds before any other countries have launched. And like they do a flyby of the probe and discover that its surface is organic. And Dorothy wants to get closer, and so Will reluctantly agrees to do like a spacewalk. And they're able to board through a membrane. And like to preserve oxygen stocks, Will chances removing his helmet and finds that the air is breathable, which is useful. And they head off down a series of corridors laid out like circuits. And Dorothy touches another part of the wall. And this is where a dramatic reading comes in, read by none other than the author herself, Sophie Aldred. And this is a brief excerpt from the audiobook release, which is available on CD, Audible, iTunes, and wherever you can get the audiobooks from.
Let's have a listen.
Yeah.
Dorothy began to make her way along the gallery, knowing that she was searching for something, but unsure as to what that something might be. A sudden difference in the texture of the walls made her stop, and suddenly she found herself removing her glove, reaching out to a patch of hull with a distinctly different feel. As her fingers made contact, there was the same wet sucking sound that she had heard when Will had entered the ship, and a section of the wall in front of her suddenly opened up, slick flesh sliding apart like the iris of a camera lens. As she stepped through into the space beyond, 3 startled faces turned to look at her. 2 of them, a man and a woman, appeared to be in their late teens, while the third was an older, grey-haired man in a smart leather jacket. But it was what stood beside them that took Dorothy's full attention and almost took her breath away. It was a battered blue police box. The TARDIS. Unashamedly incongruous, and possibly the most beautiful thing Dorothy had ever seen. The seconds passed, and as the breath returned to her body, she turned to the boy. "Where is he?" The boy stared at her in bemusement. "Where's who?" "Are you one of the crew here?" the girl asked. Impatient now, Dorothy took a step towards the TARDIS, bellowing through the doors. "Oi! Professor! Come on out!" The older man stepped across the doors, blocking her. "Believe me, love, there's no one called the Professor in there." "They know me as the Doctor." Dorothy turned at the sound of the warm northern tones to see a tall, slim, blonde woman in a long grey coat standing inside the door. Her grin was as bright as the stripes of colour across her top, and it was a smile of recognition. Dorothy, for reasons she couldn't comprehend, felt a wave of emotion. "Who are you?" she demanded. "It's me, Ace. Different body, but the same brilliant brain and much better hair." "You're the Professor?" Dorothy could barely bring herself to believe it. "No way!"
So thank you, Sophie, very much for reading and also writing that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and that conversation continues for a bit with quite a few nice little nods. But you're going to have to listen to the audio or read the book to experience those details for yourself.
And Sophie does a fantastic, I think, impersonation of Jodie Whittaker here.
Yes.
Like, you can tell her voice actor skills are, at the forefront.
Yes, yeah. And we found it difficult to choose which extract to go for, didn't we?
Yeah, we had 2 or 3 contenders.
Yes, yeah, which I've not heard the audiobook, but I was like, it makes me kind of go, you know what, I really want to go and have a listen to that, because she's really good.
Yeah, so then we have an interlude back to 1990, where the TARDIS has landed on a planet that has a Salvador Dali-esque Athens sort of presentation with melted ruins. And the Doctor here, and this is the 7th Doctor, explains that the city was the proudest achievement of a scientific race of explorers and inventors called the Stinger, but tragically, it proved to be the scene of a climactic battle against the Wraiths. So you have kind of the Stingers versus the Wraiths. And as the ground rumbles around them, Ace realizes that their arrival isn't a coincidence, and she calls the Doctor out on it. And he explains that the Stringer were fighting so hard to buy more time, they created a super weapon hidden somewhere in the city. And so the pair enter the city and they navigate to this dome and go through its corridors in true Doctor Who fashion, wandering around until they find kind of a twisting column of energy, which is the weapon that the Wraiths feared so much that they dared not attack the building.
So this weapon is called the Quantum Anvil, and the Stringer used it to fracture the timelines of every Wraith until they couldn't interact with the universe. Which is quite a cool but cruel thing to do. And the TARDIS can sense the Quantum Anvil so much that the Doctor has in the past navigated with it, using it as a waypoint. And he also just checks in on it from time to time to make sure its containment field is okay and that it's not leaking. Yes, it's basically it's radioactive waste, but from a time point of view. And there's another earthquake, and Ace slips and her arm slides into the energy of the anvil, which sends her into her own time stream. And so she sees her life from babyhood up to the present, and then fragments off into various futures, including becoming a Time Lord, dying in a Nitro 9 explosion, dancing with an ancestor of Sorin, and drinking alien liquor with a dark-haired woman in the TARDIS. You might recognise some of those. We've covered one of those. And she also glimpses a possible future Earth ruled by the Haemovirs. And then Ace spots the Wraiths, and even more importantly, they spot her. And she feels something and realises it's the Doctor grabbing her arm, pulling her to safety. And he's keen to go, as he reckons that the tremors are being caused by the wash of an incoming Stringer ship. And Ace is still recovering physically from being in the anvil and gathers enough strength to follow after him. But she reckons that the Doctor is holding something back from her. So, ominous.
The more things change.
Yes.
The Doctor holding something back.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I really like the scene where you get all of the different selves, the possible outcomes.
Yeah.
You've got Death Comes to Time and, her fighting against the Daleks and the New Adventures. And it's Hex doesn't get a mention directly, but...
she flirts with a man.
Yeah.
She flirts with a young man. And also, the Death Comes to Time thing could also be the original fate that Andrew Cartmel had planned, which was that she went to Gallifrey to become Time Lord or Time Lady.
That's right, the season 27 sort of storyline.
Yeah.
So back in 2020, Dorothy's changed into some spare clothes in the TARDIS and is marveling at how different the console room is. So we get a cool scene there. And this is kind of cool, too, in that the narrative starts referring to her as Ace and not Dorothy, which is great, because I was just mentally doing that anyway, so nice to not have to do that step. And Will has gone back to the rocket to return it to Earth, but they've set up a bunch of cameras and sensors to warn them if anyone tries to board the organic ship or the space around it. And the TARDIS materializes in Ace's container workshops, which Ace had nicknamed the Bat Cave. And as Yaz, Ryan, and Graham poke around the workshop, the Doctor tells Ace that they landed on the probe because she had picked up its transmission while the TARDIS was in flight, and apparently the probe was cloaked until Graham accidentally flicked a switch, thinking it was the lights, and a very Graham thing to do. And given that the probe decloaked and became visible to the Earth over a day ago, the Doctor reckons that there's some form of time dilation at work, where effects are being sent into the past before their causes.
Yeah, she's also suspecting that the probe is basically a collection and transmission relay station, but she doesn't know what it's collecting. And Ace then sort of says it might be connected to the disappearances of teenagers in Paravel. Ace's assistant, Sanul, rings to let her know that a couple of company Range Rovers are en route to the warehouse for their use. And he's also got an address for a girl who'd managed to escape alien abduction. And Chantal then rather helpfully calls Ace to tell her about her encounter in the alleyway with those vanishing aliens. And so, intrigued by all of this, and given how many companions that the Doctor has at the moment, Ace suggests that they split up. So the Doctor and Ace will go chat to the girl, whilst the rest of the fam will look into the alien hoodies that Chantal saw. So, benefits of a crowded TARDIS for you.
One of the things I really appreciated about this book was that it had a kind of a good combination of different Doctor and companion pairings throughout, where they would split up and then come together and then go off in different subgroup combinations.
Yeah.
And I really wish that more books, follow that structure, because it gives us the space for some rather deep conversations between, like the Doctor and Yaz, or the Doctor and Ace, and then Ace and Yaz. And I did like that aspect of it, where you didn't feel like you were stuck with however they split up, for the entirety of the narrative.
Yeah.
So as Ace is driving her and the Doctor, they start talking about their past, and it transpires that Ace left the Doctor on bad terms. And we also learn that towards the end of her travels, Ace nicked 50 quid off the Doctor and invested it in a high-interest bank account in the 1940s, and it's this money that Ace has used to help set up her charity.
This sounds in character, doesn't it?
I wish Ace hadn't gone the Adam Mitchell route in terms of, building a fortune.
Well,
there's plenty of other ways she could have got the money. The Doctor has these credit cards with no expiration or can access ATMs. But yeah, that did strike me as a little like, there were other ways I think she could have got there than effectively cheating. But
I was wondering how she'd managed to do this. Certainly in the UK, most charity CEOs are not living in penthouses by the Tower of London, unless they were already pretty wealthy anyway.
Yeah, or corrupt and are
Yes.
mooching off the charity.
Yeah.
Which isn't the case here, but it is interesting that like Ace is now this almost like Bruce Wayne or Tony Stark figure with
Yes.
limitless resources.
Yeah, because Ace is quite famous in this, it would seem, in the Doctor Who universe, because like Graham seems to recognise her.
Mm-hmm. So the Doctor and Ace get to the girl's house in Perryville, where the Doctor uses her psychic paper to talk their way in, and they meet this girl whose name is Carrie and her parents, and they're pretending that the Doctor is one of NASA's alien experts. And after her mom complains about how bad the rats are getting on the estate, Carrie starts telling Ace and the Doctor about her dream, which is very similar to Ace's. And one time Carrie screamed so much that her parents had to break into her room past a barricade that she didn't even remember setting up. And Carrie was lying on the floor, convulsing and covered in this really foul-smelling like slime.
Yeah, keep an eye on that slime. So elsewhere in Perivale, the TARDIS team reached Chantel's apartment block on the hunt for the alien hoodies. And Yaz's police experience makes her think that possibly these kids might be... their experiences might be more down to boredom than kind of like alien abductors. And like Graham and Ryan are very much starstruck by Chantel because like she's been in EastEnders, and so she's quite famous. And Yaz though is being a bit more thoughtful and reflecting on why Ace left the Doctor and how in many ways Ace represents her own future. And Chantel takes the fam down to the alley where they sort of like meet Kim Fortune and see something, which is a small hooded creature running over to the alley. And Kim tries to rugby tackle it, and it ends up spewing slime all over his face. And like the creature gets away, and Ryan and Yaz chase after it till it ends up on the tube tracks, and it gets rather dead. And they realise to Yaz and Ryan, this creature was kind of like a giant rat-like creature in jeans.
Yeah, it kind of gets run over by one of the tube trains.
Yeah, it's quite gruesome.
Yeah. I do wish that during the tube train incident that Ryan's dyspraxia was mentioned or referenced.
Yes.
I was thinking like, oh, this is going to be a plot point as to why he won't be able to evade the train, or it'll be an extra encumbrance, but there isn't any mention of Ryan's disability in the story.
Well, his dyspraxia does seem to come and go depending on who's writing him.
Mm-hmm. And then everyone, including Kim Fortune, gather at Ace's container laboratory where Ace is analyzing the slime using her chemistry expertise, which she's further developed, since her travels with the Doctor.
Well, which is fair enough, because she's doing a chemistry experiment.
Yes.
When she ends up on Iceworld. So I think it's good that got acknowledged.
Yeah, that she has a kind of a background in that or a strength in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and all her Nitro 9. So, she knows what she's doing.
And the Doctor is conducting an autopsy on the rat creature. And the Doctor recognizes this creature as being a rat with capital R, 2 T's. And rats are henchmen for hire, similar to like the Ogrons or the Quarks. And they have a special gift in that they can transform from humanoid to animal form and back again. And it's accompanied by a resounding crack, which is what we had been hearing earlier. And this rat was in mid-transformation when the tube train hit it. And Ace figures that the slime is some sort of tracking center pheromone so that the spaceship rats know who they should beam up and abduct. And at this point, Will arrives with his with the squidget to Ace's delight, because that's kind of her go-to, almost like her canine in a way.
Yes, or a sonic screwdriver. Yeah.
Kind of Ace's sonic, And he's got some info about the probe that it had appeared in Earth's orbit before, back in 1987, on the day that Ace disappeared. And this makes Ace all the more determined to find out what's going on. And so she gets Ryan and Yaz to act as bait by smearing themselves in this kind of mucus slime. And if the two of them carry trackers, then the Doctor can go in the TARDIS and track them as they're transmitted through the network. And then Ace helps herself to some Nitro 90 spheres, which are almost like marble size. They're very small. Well, everyone else is preparing to go to London and figure out where these rats are abducting and sending these kids.
Yeah, up on the transmission relay station, just kind of weird object that's appeared by the moon, The Doctor has wired Squidget into the systems with an ancient computer monitor set up, which looks quite lovely. And as she and Graham are doing various bits of prep and also checking on how the Chinese are doing, because the Chinese are planning to blow the relay station up, the station is suddenly rocked by an explosion. It's under attack, but whatever is attacking them is coming from the opposite direction from the Earth. And then the Doctor hears another bang, and it's a ship docking. And she looks on the scanners, and she sees it's an Astringer spaceship. So these are the people from Salvador Dali, Athens. And because the Astringer were reluctant warriors, she wonders whether the probe is Wraith technology, and therefore that's why they're attacking it. And then the Astringer, they make an announcement. They're assuming that anyone on board are collaborators with the Wraiths, and so must surrender to their boarding party. And so the Doctor decides to head off for a chat and leaves Graham in charge. What a good idea, yeah.
And there's a reference around this point. I don't know if it's with Graham or with the others before they split up, but the Doctor's like, oh, and Graham's like, if something goes wrong, do I go in the TARDIS? And the Doctor's like, yeah, and you'll get a nice little emergency hologram to go with it. Kind of like referencing that she makes these emergency holograms all the time.
Yeah.
That we've seen, with like the 10th Doctor use and even the 9th Doctor.
Well, the 13th Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In Flux.
In Flux, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I think the Doctor just spends quite a bit of time every now and again just recording a holo just in case.
I have to say, I did not like how often Graham was put in danger in this story. It was like, Granddad, no.
Well, he's going to live.
Yeah, that's true. So Yaz and Ace are somewhat mistrusting of each other, and so in their drive to Ace's apartment, it's very quiet, and they don't have a lot to talk about. I like the kind of the tension and unease that's built up between Yaz and Ace throughout the novel. Ace recounts at one point that Yaz very much reminds her of her friend Manisha, whose flat was firebombed, and there are kind of different accounts as to whether Manisha nearly died, like in Time Worm Apocalypse, or if she actually died, which is what Blood Heat and the Dimension Riders and, most importantly, Mike Tucker's Illegal Alien purport. So here it's that she died, but the perpetrators got a very light sentence.
Yeah.
But yeah, the unease between the two of them is kind of, Yaz is left wondering if she's the latest version of Ace. So you almost kind of get that same revelation that Rose had in School Reunion, when talking with Sarah Jane.
But it's somewhat darker than I would say than School Reunion.
And Yaz is preparing to, get kidnapped by these rats, so she's covering herself in this foul-smelling slime. And then Ace decides to don her old jacket for the first time in nearly 30 years. And Ace tells Yaz about how she gradually realized how manipulative the Doctor was and how hypocritical he was previously about violence. And then suddenly Ace hears the voice of her own mother, who's long since passed away, and she's wondering if it's time dilation related, like when Graham had turned the cloaking device off on the probe. And if so, what's been turned off to cause her past to haunt her now? And in Ace's apartment, an army of rats break in through the air conditioning ducts, and they start attacking her cat Soren, which as a cat lover got me very upset. Ace charges in with her Nitro 90, and as Yaz backs away, Ace also gets her baseball bat out to deal with the rest of the rats. And she blows a hole in her apartment, which causes some of them to fall through to the floor below. And then she's using her baseball bat to rather deadly effect against the various rats. But there are so many of them that they start to overwhelm Ace. So Yaz gets out her slime spray canister, wondering why she's not getting abducted. But a rat turns to her and tells her that she's not worthy for abduction. And so the other rats force Ace to the ground and then cover her in that same slime, which then triggers the teleporter, and Ace and the rats are beamed away.
Yeah, up on the transmission station, the Doctor knows that if the Astringer's scans have revealed who she is, then she's pretty much dead. So she's headed to a part of the station called the Functional Abyss, where anybody would be transmitted on their way through. And so the Astringer are cutting their way into the section where the Doctor is, and we get our first glimpse of them. as they're centaur-like creatures in golden armour. The Doctor, whilst protesting her innocence, offers to surrender until the Astringer commander receives an order to kill her, and so the Doctor runs away. And so as these space centaurs are giving chase, the functional abyss seems to be getting ready to transmit someone or something across. And at this point, Graham receives a call from Yaz that Ace has been captured, and what's worse, she won't have a tracker on her. So it's going a little bit wrong.
Yeah. The centaurs are kind of cool in that they still have like a horse head, but it's like smaller, like almost like a human head. So I don't know if it was kind of picturing like Jadoon style proportions, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely unique. And so back in Perryvale, Ryan and the paranormal investigator Kim Possible.
It's a terrible name, isn't it? It's a terrible name. Yeah, I'm sure his parents are not Mr. and Mrs. Possible. I mean, it's a stage name, but still, it's just like, oh.
It's memorable, but yeah.
Yes, but could not one of the three authors come up with another name? But then again, I suppose, I don't know, because like this guy's kind of like a social media star. Yeah. Anyway.
So Ryan and Kim are at Chantel's flat, where Ryan and Chantel are getting a bit flirty while Kim showers all the slime off him. And before Chantel starts giving Ryan a massage, Kim runs in on them, pursued by some rats. And the rats are concerned that they're behind their quota, so they prepare to transport all three of the humans away. And back in the probe control room, the Doctor arrives with the Astringer hot on her heels. And as Graham briefs her on the Ace situation, he sees Ryan's tag, his tracking indicator, appear and pulls like the right lever to make sure that Ryan gets tracked. And at this point, the walls tremor violently as the Astringer set off charges throughout the functional abyss, which is like the teleportation network.
Yeah, the transport room, yeah.
Graham and the Doctor frantically try to find out what's happened to Ryan when they hear this moan. Ryan emerges from a mucus-like wall where he ended up after the abyss was attacked. And while Ryan's very weak, he's able to tell the Doctor Chantel and Kim have been transported, but he's got the tracker, so that's not good. That neither of them were wearing those.
Yeah, so they've got no idea where everyone's gone to. But yeah, so the Doctor's trying to do a broad range scan of the console to see where the target destination is for all of these transmissions, when kind of Squidget explodes as a result of the damage to the abyss. Then like the centaurs burst in, blow up a wall in the process. I mean, they are very Fifth Doctor villains, aren't they? And the Doctor's knocked out to the point that the Astringer, the centaurs, think she's dead, and so they leave her body there whilst they take Graham and Ryan prisoner. And the Doctor isn't dead, unsurprisingly, because she'd shut down her cardiovascular system briefly. This is a useful trick, which the Doctor has used in the past, but not that often. As she's coming around, she's hearing Will's voice from the TARDIS monitors, kind of like inquiring as to what's going on. And the Astringer ship has fled away, but not before it blew the probe out of lunar orbit. And so on its current trajectory, the probe's going to burn up in Earth's atmosphere in about 12 hours' time. So the Doctor grabs her console and kind of like Squidget, Squidget's still alive but somewhat burnt, and she's got no alternative but to flee into the TARDIS and work out her next move.
Back in 1990, we get another one of these interludes, and the Seventh Doctor and Ace are running for their lives through the cathedral, kind of the palace they were visiting earlier.
Yeah.
Well, Ace is still reeling from all the images she saw across the multiverse and all of her, potential future outcomes. And Ace realizes that, while the Doctor's concerned about her, he was initially worried that she hadn't been touched by the wraiths. And she works out that she was being treated by him as like bait or as almost like a guinea pig in this scenario. And the Astringer, these centaur creatures, are very much gaining on them. So the Doctor uses his acrobatic skills to kind of trick them into shooting the cathedral's roof beams. And then the Doctor and Ace stumble out of the cathedral as it crumbles down to the ground.
Which feels very Sylvester McCoy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So exhausted and with their pursuers trapped, Ace again asks the Doctor, why are they there? And he explains that at some point the wraiths might escape, in which case it'd be rather handy to have someone that can interact with them. And because they've touched Ace, she can be that person. And like more Astringa have arrived. And so the Doctor and Ace are running again, but get penned in by the Astringa because like they know like Dali Athens very well. And like the Astringa say that they're committing sacrilege. And as they prepare to carry out their sentence, the Doctor persuades Ace to use some Nitro-9, which blows up the ground that the Astringa are on. And so therefore, these Astringa fall to their deaths. As they head back to the TARDIS, Ace reflects how both she and the Astringa have been manipulated by the Doctor, and that he's always the player of games that she can't understand. And so when they reach the TARDIS, Ace tells the Doctor that she has to leave. And she has to leave him.
Yeah. That was quite a powerful scene. And Ace's intention wasn't to kill the Astringa squad that was pursuing them. Like, she had deliberately thrown the Nitro-9 like halfway in front, kind of in the space between. But she wasn't aware that with all these earthquakes and stuff, that the ground was disturbed and had all these pockets and stuff of like almost like sinkholes. And so her Nitro-9, it killed all of them, but it was meant to be like a distraction, and that certainly wasn't her intention at the time. So I think she feels even more bad about that. And then back in 2020, the Doctor's with Yaz in Ace's badly damaged penthouse flat. And the Doctor explains how bad the situation is, and that she can't even detect Ryan's tracker. And she also tells Yaz about how much she regretted how her past self and Ace had parted ways. Yaz says the Doctor would have been proud of Ace with her baseball bat prowess, at which point the Doctor perks up a little bit, because as a parting gift, the Seventh Doctor had given Ace, because her baseball bat was destroyed, I think, in remembrance of the Daleks, but he's either able to reconstruct it or give her a new one. Although I think, is it Ram in Class ends up using the bat as well? Or at least a bat like it?
Yeah.
But but anyway, because Ace was holding the bat when she was taken, the Doctor reckons that there'll be residual alien energies that she can track.
Because this is a super-powered bat.
It's interesting that the Doctor doesn't reveal that the tech that made the baseball bat super-powered, it was dipping it into the hand of Omega.
Yeah. And
that's Time Lord based. But I guess that makes sense if this story is set prior to Series 12, because she hasn't really talked much about Gallifrey or anything with her companions.
But this new bat probably wouldn't have been dipped into the hand. It might have been just dipped into the Eye of Harmony or something.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Doctor and Yaz then head back to Ace's Batcave, these containers out on a farm, where Will is also there, and he's got some interesting data to share. And he's the one who shares that this relay station that was there in 1987 seems to have been about 10 times more powerful in terms of transmitting ability than the version that shows up in 2020.
So the Doctor takes them to the TARDIS, where she brings up a universal map, and she shows where Iceworld is, and so how far Ace would have been transported in 1987. And so she reduces the search area proportionally, but can't find any indication of the bat's presence. Now here, like Iceworld, Glitz is there, and so Glitz is in the far future.
That's true.
So how does this work?
Well, it was a time storm, so it was both time and space that she was.
Well, I guess. But I did kind of think we might be having to look through time as well. But,
that's a good point.
Yeah, but anyway. So Will wonders if this means that Ace has been obliterated, but the Doctor reckons that the rats won't be going to all this trouble to kill people. Well, at least not deliberately, eh? But instead, she wonders if there's a network of relay stations. And given that the space centaurs disappeared so quick, there probably is such a network. So the Doctor and Yaz head back without Will to the doomed relay station, so if they can get a hint of where the next relay station might be.
And back on the Astringa Centaur ship, Ryan and Graham are chained in a prison cell, which is completely empty except for a water trough. They're expecting horse-like prisoners.
Yes.
When the two of them are visited by two of the centaurs, one is the golden-armored Astringa general named Aquilian, and beside her is a silver-armored Astringa called Centurion Mast. and General Aquilian tells them that the Doctor is an enemy of their race and a murderer, and the two Astringer take Ryan away for a mind probe, leaving a worried Graham alone in the cell. And they call this mind probe a think scan, and they're using it on Ryan, and various images appear on the monitor, including Grace, his grandmother, Chantal, and Ace. And Mast recognizes Ace as the woman who reached out to the Wraiths and killed several Astringer back on the Salvador Dali planet. And Mast promises vengeance.
Ace now, because Ace has been transported, so she's coming around in the landscape that she's had nightmares of. There's 3 suns up in the sky, and on the horizon is a crumbling alien castle. And she can hear distant cries and can see people heading off to the castle, including Chantal and Kim, but they don't hear her shouts. Before she can run to them, she's attacked by rats, who tell her that the big boss wants to see her. And in short time, Ace has been dragged by rats through tunnels under the desert, and they chuck her into what feels like a medieval throne room, complete with pennants. And then a squat, horned, demon-like creature with lots of folds of skin scuttles into the room. And this figure calls himself Halogi Kari, and he is a self-proclaimed bringer of time and distance. And Halogi Kari says he knew Ace was different and summoned a tapestry panel to fall from the ceiling, which is a useful ability. And this tapestry depicts Ace getting trapped in a time storm. Because it turns out that not only was Halogi Kari one of Fenric's wolves, but he developed the relay stations for the Wraiths, which is how come he came to Fenric's attention. So, that was a twist that I was excited.
We were getting lots of little tie-ins to multiple different stories that Ace was part of.
Yeah. If you're enjoying this, I think, and you haven't read it, now is a very good time to just go away and pick it up, because we are
going to continue to spoil it. So,
yes, there's more stuff coming.
So at this point, Yaz, the Doctor, and Squidget are back on the relay station where, it's hurtling into Earth, and it's about 25 minutes from hitting the Earth's atmosphere, and the walls are all burnt and oozing, and the TARDIS is in the data center, which is, in a very bad way as it's burning up. The Doctor remembers the time dilation from earlier, which is apparently a side effect of crunching lots of subatomic particles through this data store, which is kind of leaking a little bit. And the Doctor, with help from Squidget, uses the time dilation to restore the data center, although this will speed up the destruction of the entire station as a result. Squidget is able to access some of the data, but also accidentally triggers a ray phase shift, and the 3 of them barely get back into the TARDIS before the station explodes. Yaz then confronts the Doctor about how manipulative she's been to Ace in the past, and to Yaz in the present, which certainly...
It's true.
echoes some of the same things that Yaz is still, experiencing with the Doctor. And while all of this is going on, Squidget calculates that the next relay station is located somewhere in Galaxy 4.
Yeah, of course it is. On the Astringer spaceship, Ryan remembers he's got some Nitro 90 and blows a hole in a prison cell through which he and Graham escape. And they run around a ship and kind of go through an airlock, and then surprised to find themselves on the relay station. But then they realise it's a different station, but it's obviously a very similar design. And Aquilon is there and spots them, and she's furious that they're using Ace's infamous deadly weapons. And Graham and Ryan are sort of trying to persuade her of their good intentions, until Ryan starts feeling faint. To Graham's horror, Ryan is beamed away because the relay facilities here are actually working. And Aquilon's about to shoot Graham, and then the TARDIS arrives in the nick of time and extends its defence shield to protect Graham. And the Doctor says that Aquilon is actually a criminal wanted by the Astringer. The rest of the Legion haven't realised this, but it would explain why they haven't been able to visit their homeworld or contact their families in a very long time. So yeah, that might be a bit of a sore point, mightn't it? The Doctor points out that this makes this Legion as bad as the Wraiths, and the TARDIS defence shield begins to fail, so they retreat and head to the next relay station to hopefully find Ryan.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool revelation there. Just we've got a kind of a rogue centaur commander.
Yes.
So back in the desert, in a scene reminiscent of trekking through the desert scenes that brought Winner Takes All to mind, the Jack Rayner book we read last year, Chantel and Kim have reached the sinister building on the horizon, and the rats are by the door and promise to let them in if they make a charitable donation and sign the terms and conditions, mainly the charitable donation being their bodies. The rats choose their victims not because of their age, but because of their low self-image, where they've been discarded by society, and so the aliens kind of see them as free for the taking because they're considered unwanted rubbish by the rest of humanity. Chantel decides to consent because her option is either that or dying in the desert. And this is a very, like, if you fall on the desert floor, it's like sharp like glass and can cut you and stuff. So she decides to take her chances inside the building. And she finds herself inside like a crowded holding area. And she tries to get help from others in the room, but realizes that most of them can't speak English and presumably have been taken from countries, all around the world. So they're these robots that the rats are using to keep an eye on the humans and guard them and stuff. And they're taking and extracting humans one by one from this holding cell. And Chantel sees another cellmate get taken by the robots, but suddenly that robot is destroyed. And while Chantel is in shock, Ryan enters the room wielding Ace's baseball bat, which he had picked up in the desert on the way to the building. And he and Chantel quickly start attacking the robots and the rats.
Yeah, so yeah, more interesting violence. So the TARDIS is bouncing through a series of relay stations. So we don't spend a lot of time in Galaxy 4 until they realise that the next one in the chain has fallen into a nearby star and has been destroyed. Dismayed, but not defeated, the Doctor looks for a signal from Ace's bat and finds it on a planet called Piri-Kanto. And on Piri-Kanto, Halogikari, the horned demon, kind of Darth Maul-esque figure, is saying to Ace that they are now in a room of great energies. And basically, they've entered a room of the quantum anvil, but through a back door. And like here in spiritual form, are kind of like the wraiths looking for a physical body to occupy. And Ace can perceive some of the wraiths, including one that she realises is in the form of Kim Fortune. Then Ace finds herself kind of falling through various alternative timelines, which are mostly grim, but as she's falling through them, beside her is a wraith, which is telling her that it needs her.
And the wraiths reminded me a little bit of like the Gelth from the Unquiet Dead episode, in that they kind of need that human host. So Ryan is continuing to make short work of the various robots using his baseball bat and, flinging Nitro 90 marbles at them. At this point, the TARDIS arrives, complete with Yaz, the Doctor, and Graham. And the other thing that's kind of cool is, as the TARDIS materializes, Chantel can start understanding all of the other abductees due to the translation circuits. The Doctor asks Yaz, Ryan, and Graham to rescue the rest of the abductees, or I think to get them into the TARDIS.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
And then in the meantime, Chantel and the Doctor are going to get a sense of the building's layout, and they're able to use Squidget to force open the doors, because I think a lot of the doors are deadlocked against the Doctor's sonic. And they find a secret door that gets them out into the desert, where in the distance they can see in the night sky the arrival of the Stringer chariot ship.
So Graham, Ryan and Yaz, on their search for the abductees, have reached a holding area where the abductees have built a barricade against the rats and the robots. And Ryan is now only down to 1 Nitro 90. And so with that in hand, the fam find their way through the ruined corridors out into an operating theatre where they can see the rats operating a sonic cannon against the Stringer. And Graham sneaks up on the cannon operators and lets rip with a baseball bat. Yeah, would I have loved to have seen that? I don't know, but imagine Bradley Walsh would have enjoyed doing that.
Better a baseball bat than a wok, I guess.
Yes,
in terms of effectiveness.
But in the confusion, the Stringer managed to overpower the surprised rats. And now the fam find themselves again prisoners of Aquilon. And Master's also near and tells Aquilon that the herd world are apparently telling them to stand down. And Aquilon is having none of this and wants to execute all the abductees as being Wraith accomplices. And Ryan tells Mast that if they do this, it's going to haunt all of the Stringer for the rest of their days. And then an Stringer soldier opens fire.
There are a lot of good chapter-ending cliffhangers like that throughout.
Oh, yes.
So then the Doctor and Chantal, back in the palace, are troubled by all of the energy levels. They're tracking a source of energy which is surging when they encounter a wraith, with Kim Possible draped over its shoulders and kind of animating it or giving it life or corporealness.
I've not quite figured out how that works.
Well, I was thinking of it as like these wraiths as these like large, dark, shadowy creatures that are almost WWE wrestling style.
Yeah.
Carrying the humans around on their backs.
Yeah.
But some glimpses of Kim's personality have seemed to survive the fusion of the two beings. So Chantal's able to distract Kim with some questions and stuff while the Doctor sneaks past, including agreeing to guest host on Kim's podcast, which I thought was quite fun. Hello Gakari then appears, boasting that Ace will serve as the host for the Wraith Queen, of course. The Doctor insists that instead, Ace will be unharmed, and all the abductees will be returned to their proper place on Earth. And Hello Gakari launches a time storm towards the Doctor, which reminds the Doctor as she's getting swept up in it with her previous psychic battle with Morbius.
The psychic battle that she'll be reminded of again later.
In Series 12.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess maybe if you really, really, really don't like The Timeless Child, you could sort of say, well, it was just something that was fresh in her mind, yada, yada, yada. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's getting harder and harder to hand wave the Timeless Child stuff away. So as time is swirling around her, the Doctor focuses on 1 second of Ace's call for help, and that pins her to safety in this kind of temporal whirlpool. And the Doctor starts walking to Halogikari whilst her clothes are decaying and her skin is aging. And the Doctor is distracted by this and is then somewhat surprised when Halogikari's shoulder explodes, as Aquilon has sneaked in and she's shot the villain. And time is still swirling though, whilst Halogikari slumps to the floor. And as the Doctor is kind of like frantically pleading with Ace, who's kind of like the Wraith Queen, Ace shouts out that the Wraiths don't want to be warriors, and instead that they see that their only viable futures are ones in which they seek peace. So the Doctor can see these visions as well, but Aquilon is having none of this and orders her troops open fire.
Yeah, quite a powerful climax to the story, I think. It's just like Doctor Strange in Infinity War, where the Wraiths are stuck in this time column for all eternity, and they're able to explore all the different possible endings, and, you know, them realizing, hey, the only endings where things work out is where we're not the bad guys. You know, it kind of changes their motivation over time. Yeah. So Commander Mast does follow Aquilon's orders to open fire, but rather than shooting at the Wraiths, he shoots his commander, Aquilon, and takes control of the Legion. And he says that the Herd World, which is kind of a cool, you know, they call it their Herd World instead of their home world. There's a lot of little clever turns of phrase like that in this, where, like, there's one point where Ace is like, where there's a Will, but she's talking about her ex-boyfriend Will. Or at one point Graham's like, something's rattling that horse's chains. That's lots of turns of phrase like that. The Herd World will determine what happens to the Wraiths, and they're not going to execute them, you know, with this rogue squadron. And the Queen, or Ace hybrid, says that she's happy with this, and then requests that the Doctor use a frequency blast to separate the Wraiths from their hosts. And the Doctor points out that this will make them non-corporeal again and send them back into their prison realm, kind of outside of time. But the Queen is content with this outcome because she is able to understand that it won't be forever. And so she puts her hope in, you know, the Astringer making the right decision.
Well, because she can sense time, she knows that they're going to make the right decision.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I read that in there and it wasn't there. But
well, I think that gets into a free will versus determinism.
Yes, I guess, yes.
But the Wraiths all vanish, and leaving their weakened human hosts. And as Ace recovers, she sees that Hello Gakari has gone, but she can see a trail of his blood, and so heads after him, armed with her baseball bat.
So the Doctor pursues Ace and finds her standing over Halogikari, bat in hand, and like threatening to kill the villain. In return for being spared, Halogikari agrees to return all the abductees and face justice from the Shadow Proclamation, who... Halogikari has been prattling on about the Shadow Proclamation for quite some time. And the Doctor is very proud of Ace, and reflects on how her 7th regeneration had never stopped to imagine Ace's future. And Ace recognises that the Doctor has changed for the better, which is very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of a cool revelation.
Yeah.
I have to say, the name Halogikari, I really like it. It reminds me of those kind of weird Doctor Who names that are just fun to say, like Shakai of the Quincy Grig or Graf Vindicay. You know, kind of those 3-syllable names.
It feels very Star Warsy to me. I mean, Halogikari feels like a Sith.
Well, he acts a lot like Darth Maul. So.
He does, but he feels very Sith-like.
So then we get a bit of an epilogue where a month later, back on Earth, Will is in Ace's Batcave, where he's been coming regularly since the Ace and the Doctor left, almost as like a tribute to them, as to keep the flame alive. And Ace's assistant appears with a letter addressed to Will that explains that Ace is safe, but she won't be coming back to Earth for a while. She, Chantal, and Kim are helping the Astringer and the Wraiths come to terms with each other, and so Ace is giving Will both the Squidget and her charity to run while she's away. Hopefully Will says yes.
Yes.
Will finds Squidget in a box and tells Squidget that they have work to do.
Yeah. And so the book ends with the final words of survival.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah,
they've got work to do.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that till you just pointed it out. Huh?
Which I thought was rather lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry, we did go into that in a lot more detail than like normally would, but it was very hard to cut that down in a way that could make sense.
Yeah. So what did you make of At Childhood's End?
I really enjoyed this. Really did. It was just. I think early on I was kind of thinking it's a bit fantastical. Like when I was describing it to Lauren, she sort of said that it almost sounded like a bit like kind of like Sex and the City, or a bit kind of like chick flicky, with the whole kind of like and everyone's like running a charity, and your friend's a supermodel, and like it's almost like Ace has like a squad like Taylor Swift.
I would agree with you there in that the setup, at least for me, felt a little bit, I don't want to say fan fiction-y, but just in terms of like wish fulfillment, or Ace not quite being a Mary Sue character, but being, she's got the unlimited checkbook. She's got all those constraints are lifted from her. Yeah. So she's able to function in this almost like superhero type role.
Yeah.
But as you said, a lot of it is, she's dating an astronaut, and she's friends with ex models, and, chummy with EastEnders actors.
Yes. And at one point, the Doctor says that Ace tried to kind of like change her pronunciation and accent so she could try to become a Blue Peter presenter, which I thought was quite funny. Sophie Aldred in real life had really wanted to be a Blue Peter presenter.
And we do get a couple references to the Blue Peter badges on her jacket. And how many alien worlds they've traveled to.
Yes, yeah. And I hadn't quite realised that Blue Peter in like 1987 only agreed to let her wear the badges because Sophie Aldred had earned those badges herself as a child. So I was like, they are hardcore in the Blue Peter office. Yeah. But like with the fantasy thing, I kind of thought, but it's inspirational, and it's I loved this book. I did, and it came at like, for me, it came just about at the right time as well, because like it came at the last month has not been an easy one, and it was just nice when I was ready to go back to the book. It was just a lovely, comforting read. So I loved this book. How about you?
I read it over the winter break, and I really enjoyed it as well. I thought it was a very solid outing. And once you get past the premise and the setup and kind of the wish fulfillment aspects of it, I think the story hits all cylinders when the 13th Doctor and the Fam show up, because they're just so well characterized, and they're better characterized than the companions were in the first two 13th Doctor books we've read. simply, I think, because Mike Tucker and Steve Cole and Sophie Aldred had the ability, had that first series 11 watched.
Yeah.
Whereas the other books we've read were written prior to that series airing. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was well balanced between the Ace bits and the 13th Doctor and Fam bits. And like I mentioned earlier, I really liked the different combinations of characters we kept having throughout and the different conversations that came out of that. And yeah, like I've read it over winter break, and I thought it was it fit, the holiday season, and hopeful and aspirational, and a fair amount of violence, but not as gorily depicted as our previous book was.
No, it certainly doesn't revel in it. It does not revel in any violence.
Yeah. One thing I guess I wish the prophetic dreams had been left out, because they, to me at least, added this unneeded layer of complexity to the piece, where I never particularly saw Ace as like a psychic force or something, but I suppose that could play, if she has latent abilities like that, then that might play into how she might have been suitable, for training as a Time Lord.
Is it not time dilation?
I think that that's how it was explained in the book, but I just thought that a whole element was unneeded.
Yeah.
Whether the cause of the dreams was time dilation or her being psychically sensitive, or perhaps both.
Yeah.
It was fine without it, but another thing I really liked about this was how the book filled in details, about the time storm that brought Ace to Iceworld initially, and also finally gave us a definitive, until we get the next one, leaving scene with the Doctor.
Yeah.
And how, the Doctor using her as a weapon one too many times as his secret plan B. I also liked that we got both the 13th Doctor and the 7th Doctor in this, in parts.
Yeah, and the book did a good job of capturing Seventh Doctor just as well as it did, the more recent TARDIS crew. And like going back to what you're saying about the time storm, I was really impressed by how the book just added a bit of information to stuff that we already knew. It was just there as a kind of like a subtle layering. It didn't contradict anything. And it wouldn't have been done in a kind of like in a big kind of shock kind of thing. I mean, I was surprised. I was like, oh wow, hello, Hikari was working for Fenric. But and also, how is Fenric operating in 1987? But still, it's fun. I just enjoyed it, and I was like, yeah, okay, cool, that's fine. It's just another little layer. It's brilliant. So it is surprising how little Fenric has popped up, because I don't think Fenric appears in any of the new adventures. I think Fenric does reappear in Big Finish.
I think we get references to the Hemivores in, is it Goth Opera?
Yeah.
Where we visit that future.
But it's just references.
But yeah, not as like a central villain or anything.
Yeah.
I also thought the book had a lot of good things, kind of an interesting thematic commentary on homelessness and the nature of charity, and how we view people and discard people.
Yeah.
Or how society does, and how that's not a good thing, and how we should fight against that impulse. Yeah, those themes I thought could even have been a little stronger in the book, or maybe tied up some of those loose ends with perhaps a scene of dropping off all the people that were collected by the rats and figuring out like maybe Ace is going to help them out or give them a stipend or something to get back on their feet.
I think though I don't know if we really need that. I mean, the book's already quite long as it is, but I don't know.
Really liked the twist about the rogue horse kind of squadron and how they had different motivations from the rats, and how the tie-ins to the villain's end goals to the wider Doctor Who universe, in that Hello Gakari was going after the Shadow Proclamation, as kind of like his end goal in terms of the battle with the Wraiths and what he wanted to use them for. And I also thought Yaz in particular was just fantastic in this. The references to the Doctor keeping secrets and Yaz's anger at the Doctor, relevant when this book was written after Series 11 and still relevant today. Especially after Flux. I really enjoyed this.
And also you can read Yaz's relationship with the Doctor in this in whichever way you want. Or Yaz's feelings for the Doctor.
So how would you score this one?
How am I going to score this? I think I'm going to give this a 9. Because I do think the thing that kind of stops it from being a 10 is possibly like early on a little bit of the I think I could have, because I was just kind of thinking, how has a charitable Earth got all this money? What's going on? I mean, and we do get answers to that question, but I was kind of like, is this ever going to get explained? So, yeah. So I think something has to be really, really great to get a 10, and this is great, but it's not really, really, really great. But it's just there's just tiny little niggles. But I feel like I'm being very picky. So how about you?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Which I think is what I gave Prisoner of the Daleks, where I think it's a very solid outing. It felt for me like a very different and welcome take on School Reunion.
Yes.
But I did think that the first third of the book took a while to get going. And it's an example of a rare Doctor Who book that gets better as you read it.
Yes.
I think where the setup maybe floundered a little bit. I thought it really hit its stride when the Doctor and Graham, Yaz, and Ryan were introduced. You had the fam, and it just was a kind of a breakneck pace from there on out, and it just was a page turner for me. I think like the whole trip to the moon, while it was fun, was almost unnecessary or took too long in terms of the amount of narrative it ate up. My favorite parts of this were actually some of the more domestic bits where you have conversations in flats and just the whole investigative process. Parts of that felt very Series 11 to me, kind of that police procedural sort of investigation take, but the pacing was better than I thought the televised series was in that season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I think if this appeared in Series 11, this would be my favourite episode in it.
Agreed,
Yeah.
Well, that's At Childhood's End.
Yeah.
That's a great book.
Yeah.
With a hidden acronym in the title.
Yes. Yeah.
So, shall we move on to listener feedback?
Yes, let's. Listen.
Well, Chris, we have an email this month.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
This one is from Sarah Beth in Buffalo, New York. I didn't realize that Buffalo was on the shores of one of the Great Lakes. And apparently that's where buffalo wing sauce was first invented.
Well, is Buffalo not across from Niagara?
It is, yeah. I think we might have gotten a glimpse of Sarah Beth's city in Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. But
yes.
Maybe that was just the Canadian side of the falls.
Yes, yeah, because Buffalo was the very first bit of America I saw.
Oh.
We went on holiday to Toronto, and we went to Niagara Falls. So my family have seen America, but I'm the only one of them that's set foot in it.
Huh. Too funny.
Yes, yeah, it was like, oh yeah, no, we can't be bothered crossing the bridge. Oh, okay. Well, why not? Whilst we're here. Oh no, okay, we really won't. All right, fine.
Sarah Beth writes, I'm a newish listener. My first episode was the Missy Chronicles, and I'm really enjoying your recent run of episodes. I've started listening to the back catalog as well, and I'm up to the Crystal Bucephalus. Sorry about that. She says, I don't have a lot of time for reading these days, so podcasts and audiobooks have been my go-to. Thank you for making my winter break a little more cozy.
Oh.
I would argue that audiobooks still count as books, even if you aren't reading them yourself, but maybe she's referring to the Big Finish audio dramas there. One question that Sarah Beth had for both of us is, what attracted you to focus on the book ranges in the first place? Doctor Who covers all sorts of expanded media, comics, books, and audios. Don't get me wrong, I love the podcast and the book club, but curious what special appeal the books have for you. That's a great question.
It's a very good question. I think for me, it was because the books were the next thing once the TV series had finished. And so, like in 1991, it was kind of like, oh, well, there is some new Doctor Who coming, and it's, it was either, the comic strips and DWM, which I was lapping up, or it was the books. And also, as well, I was 12, and so it's like, just as my mind was starting to kind of expand, so the books were with their frames of references, and so there were sometimes like, oh, it's really grown up, and looking back, I'm like, no, it's not, but it just hit the right spot for me, I think. And also as well, I remember discovering the original Doctor Who Book Club podcast and just loving it. So
yeah.
How about you?
For me, I would say it's similar, and probably threefold. I would say it's when I first got into Doctor Who, the books were all that there was. that and the comic and DWM. And from 96 to 99, 2 books to collect every month, or 3 if you count the bennies. And that really appealed to the collector in me, where I had my list of books, my checklist, and it was just a fun scavenger hunt to try and collect all the Virgin books and the Target novelizations up to that point. And Doctor Who can literally go anywhere and do anything, and the book range didn't have, wasn't constrained by like a television budget, so the stories were really limitless to me. And it was that, I guess, combined with having all these books that I'd collected but had only read about 10% of them or so. So the podcast has been a great motivator in that regard, to actually read these books. And then, like you said, the original Doctor Who Book Club podcast was going off the air, and I loved that podcast and just really wanted it to continue in a more timely fashion, perhaps. But yeah, thank you so much, Sarah Beth, for that email and that fantastic question. And listeners, if you have a question for us or want to answer Sarah Beth's question about why the books appeal to you as a Doctor Who fan, please write in to us at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to read your email out on the air. Chris, how about on Facebook?
So on Facebook, we had a comment from Jay Barry about Childhood's End, and which Jay describes as being the one with the plot device that makes a sonic screwdriver seem restrained.
Yeah, the Squidget is a get out of jail free card.
Yes,
it's like the MacGuffin device.
Yes, I mean, Squidget's kind of fun, but yeah. I mean, Squidget didn't ruin my enjoyment of the book because there was enough character moments and everything. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, listeners, do please give us a like on Facebook. And we've got some feedback from Twitter as well. Yeah. Starting with some feedback about our last month's selection, Deep Blue, by Mark Morris. Keith Say, 50DW50 on Twitter, says, Doctor Who and the Doomed Romance of Tegan, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Yes.
Scott Webb, the real Scott Webb on Twitter, writes, it's a fun story. The creatures would be awesome to see in a TV episode of Doctor Who. And John Porter, J.S. Porter 1966, says that he loved this one and thought the TARDIS team were true to form. He says the danger was clear and present, and it was good to see how the paradox was kept from happening. Enjoy. And I think he means the paradox with the Brigadier remembering this version of the Doctor there.
Yeah.
And we've also already got some feedback about our selection for this month as well. Daryl Miller from Suffolk writes about Childhood's End that it took him until getting the book to notice the acronym in the title, which is also present in the name of Ace's Charity. And Christian Cage from Scotland writes, it so happens that I'm reading this book right now. The character work with the fam is much stronger here than it is in the show. And then we also got a tweet from author and friend of the show, Dave Rudden, wishing the podcast a very happy holidays, which was lovely. Thank you, Dave.
Oh, bless Dave. He's a good egg. Right. Okay, so I think this is where you tell me what we're going to be reading next month.
It is. And next month is a milestone, Chris. It's our 60th episode.
Yes.
Which is how many episodes the original book club ran for. So let's go from the current 13th Doctor era all the way back to the beginning, the first Doctor era.
Okay. Right. I thought we were going to be reading Tomo Genesis there for a second.
No, although John Peel is going to be a guest of honor at Council Room this month. So.
Fair enough. Right. You could ask him about that, yeah.
But I'm going to pick a novel from an author that we've read once before. And in a book club first, I'm going to be picking a novel that was not officially published by the BBC. A novel that, in fact, was rejected. We're going to be reading Campaign by Jim Mortimer.
Yes! Excellent!
And to celebrate our 60th episode, you, dear listener, can read along with us. The book is available for free online on the New Zealand Doctor Who Fan Club website for all to read. And it's got, I think, author commentary that's longer than the book itself, which I may set aside and not read. But I have a physical copy of this book from back in the day, so happy reading indeed.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, fantastic! fantastic. Yes. So, because it was because of his experience with us that Jim Mortimer, I think, vowed to never do any more Doctor Who again.
So I'm excited to give that a read. I've heard very interesting things about the book, and normally would only read published works, but as this is by a previous author that we've read, I can see we'll perhaps bend those rules for our 60th celebration. And I'm excited that listeners can read along with us, and they don't have to pay for a physical copy of this book, which costs quite a bit of money these days.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be. Yes, yeah. Oh, that's cool. Oh, brilliant. Oh, yes, very much looking forward to that. And I'm glad that we're not about to read Time Warp Genesis, because I've got to this ripe old age about reading Time Warp Genesis.
Having read it, I do not care to repeat the experience. Imagine that, being stuck in a storage locker on New Year's Eve, having to read Time Warp Genesis on a loop. I'll take the Dalek, please.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London, trying to remember where I was then. I was just stuck in that, stuck in Manchester with Nick's collection of X's and... So brilliant. Yes, so Chris in South London, happy reading and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
This is my second podcast recording of the day, so I was just briefly listening back because my previous podcast, the Saturday Night, has already been released.
Wow, that's a quick turnaround.
It is a quick turnaround. It's football talk, so you kind of it's a little bit
timely. Yeah,
timely. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it was live on the internet as well. But they now have professional journalists. It's like a panel. I'm a guest alongside someone who's been working as a sports journalist for 15 years. It's right, okay.
That's very cool.
Yes, but I also was how am I keeping this company? My little team that was semi-pro this time last year are now third in League Two.
They might move up again, right?
They may move up again, yes. So we are 3 years away from playing Manchester United in the Premiership.